So now we'll move on to the next roundtable. I'd like to call up the panel members on establishing a pan-European innovation support infrastructure. So Alain, Bernard, Antoine, and Germain, please, I can invite you to take a seat. And we'll be starting with Alain. And we've seen the image today of Built4People innovation clusters, and often there are these, these things that happen as experiments in European projects, et cetera, or with the Commission, and they come and they go. This one seems to have some legs. It seems like it might be something that is around for a long time. Alain, I'd like to ask you how should we think about Built4People innovation clusters, and what is the opportunity and the potential of them?
Okay, so it's me again. Maybe before just answering your question, just very quick, a little bit of history, very, very quickly. The ECTP has been asked by the European Commission to manage a new partnership. In that case, a co-program partnership called Built4People, B4P. The objective of which was indeed to implement an ambitious program of research and innovation to improve, of course, the built environment from an energy but also from a resource point of view, including, of course, all the aspects of energy efficiency and decarbonization, but also circularity, and also with kind of a, let's say, user-centric approach. And this is something that, of course, we have developed with the European Commission. And this is, of course, the basis for elaborating also the goals and topics for the various framework programs in Horizon Europe. But based on this, we found interesting that, indeed, we got the feeling, and there was indeed a twofold interest in trying to elaborate this B4P network. We first got the feeling that there are indeed clusters, many clusters throughout Europe that are indeed already doing research and innovation and probably already targeting, I would say, the main objectives of the Built4People partnership on one side. And the other side was that indeed we were already developing since different years those concepts that have been introduced to you. So the meta-building ecosystem, the meta-building platform, the OITB, or the O3 bed, the testing facilities, how to connect those, how to have this network of testing facilities, and a set of services, and in particular digital services, as for instance typically introduced by Emery with the DPP and the digital building logbooks. And so we said, okay, shall we try to investigate in Europe which are already existing clusters which would be interested in working with us, demonstrating that indeed those construction clusters, which represent the construction industry in some way, let's say the construction value chains on one side, are interested in joining us in order to demonstrate that indeed the construction sector is ready to respond to the European Union expectations and can also get benefit of all the research that we are doing, research through the various projects, but also all the services that are now developed in the meta-building ecosystem. And indeed, well, we have launched two waves of expression of interest, and we have been indeed quite successful. We have even, to be fully honest with you, because we are a tiny team on our side in ECTP, we had a little bit to probably phase the integration of this network. But, well, in two calls for expression of interest, we have indeed been in capacity now to deal with 34 B4 peaks. I'm not getting into the details, the notion of emerging, prospective. This is different according to their level of advancing things, in particular with respect to a charter that we ask them to sign, which is not binding per se, but defining some key success factors. And one of the success factors, by the way, which is important, was beside the fact that, of course, they have to it in some way or to align with the objective and ambition of the Built4People partnership and the expectation of the European Commission, to be also as much as possible cross-border, to integrate value chain as much complete as possible. One of these success factors is their capacity indeed to provide with potentially new testing facilities, to integrate the OITB, and Metabuilding Labs is a good example of this OITB, maybe to, in the future, deal with other different types of services like digital innovation hubs and so on and so forth. So far, we have already this network of Built4People innovation clusters. Those B4P are, I do believe, ready indeed to deeply interact with all what we have developed. They are indeed representing the regional aspect of our main problem, because most of the time, and that was Antoine, which introduced a slide where he mentioned the fact that, well, most of our industry is formed by SMEs, and sometimes very, very, I would say, tiny SMEs. They are local in general, or regional. So this is a way also for us, through this network, to have this regional dimension, which is going to, of course, enrich the interaction that we are going to have based, indeed, on our various ecosystems. And that is a way, indeed, to link what we are currently doing with the Built4People Partnership and what we are developing with the Metabuilding ecosystem. So this is where we do believe that, indeed, I get that Germain will get back to some interesting notion like innovation assistant, which link to the regional aspect, and innovation coaches, which link more to the technical aspect. So I'm not getting into the detail of this. But what is interesting is that this overall, I would say, the integration of this overall comprehensive approach really is a great opportunity for us, and is very, very welcome, by the way, by the European Commission, to demonstrate, indeed, that we are able to collaboratively work together in order to improve research and innovation for the construction sector in Europe, and to improve, and this is even more important, the research to market transfer and the impact of our research in our future buildings, and potentially even beyond buildings, districts, infrastructures, blocks of buildings, whatsoever. Of course, we have not a reduced vision on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Alain. We're not telling you today about Clusterly, which is a part of the Metabuilding platform, which gives each of these clusters a space in the platform, which was initially requested by Alain at the ECTP as a way to provide content and organize working groups to the members of the ECTP. So also in this platform, there's the opportunity to offer to all of these clusters a digital workspace and collaborative environment. So that's something we missed the opportunity to tell people about today, but it's there. And then Bernard, you know, for the next part of this, it strikes me, you know, looking at that, I might suggest that associations are clusters too. Don't leave us out. In fact, associations by definition are clusters of companies, you know, behind a certain purpose. And I'm curious to have your perspective in terms of how you view this ecosystem. What value or what potential can you bring to your members by offering potentially Metabuilding to them? And how is this interface?
Yep, thank you. I prefer to stand, then I'm at the same level.
Would you like to?
No, it's the same.
Okay.
No problem. Unless if you want to rest and enjoy this seat. Yeah? As you like. So, thank you. So, a few words about who European Aluminium is. So, European Aluminium is one of the happy partners of the Metabuilding Labs project. And we are among these dozens, if not hundreds, of sectoral associations who are present in Brussels to pass their message to the European institutions. And as far as we are concerned, we are the voice of the aluminum industry in Europe. So we represent a lot of members, and it starts from the production of metal, the primary metal from electrolysis, but also more and more, and for nearly half of it, the production of metal from recycling as well. And then we represent the next step in the value chain, which is the transformation of that metal, being extrusion, rolling, casting to a certain extent. And yeah, already since the year 2000, when I joined the association, they were willing to have groups which are close to the market. And at that time, 4 market groups were created. Today there are 3, because 2 were merged, but the building group is one of them and has developed during the last years. But the building market is for us complicated in the sense that, you know, these regulations that were explained just before. If you look at the construction products regulation, which is the most important for products, its implementation is not starting for all products at the same time once the new regulation is in the official journal of the European institution, or European community. It's a product by product implementation. And so we were facing the issue that if we talk about windows, for example, the implementation of the construction product regulation is very far, very advanced. While if we talk about flat products, so the cladding type of product, things like that, the implementation of the regulation is much, let's say, lagging behind, is not as much advanced. So we had the problem that in all meetings, we had half of our members not interested in half of what we are talking about. So we said, okay, let's make 2 subgroups so that each of them has interested to what we say and what we discuss during 100% of the time. And if we have to repeat the common thing twice, it's not an issue. They are also quite different in the sense that, and here I connect to the Metabuilding Lab project and the association, is that on the side of building systems, our members are not the extruders. They are really one step further. They are filling the gap between the transformed aluminum product and the building market. They are building system companies. So you may not know it, but if you renovate your house or build a new house anywhere in Europe and that you buy aluminium windows, the guy who is coming to your house to take the measurement, to advise you, he's in fact the customer of our members. He's making most of the time the distribution of a system. It means pre-assembled profiles, thermal breaks, and instructions how to put that together with certain type of sealants, certain types of gaskets, certain type of glass to reach the right performance level, okay? So it means that the person who is coming to your home is declaring you the performance of the product according to the CPR, but also based on information he has received from his system supplier. And he has to stick to the rules. He cannot deviate as he likes, change this or that component if it's not has been pre-tested by the system company. So the system companies, in essence, they are operating testing facilities because they make the certification of everything that is reaching your home at the end. And these building system companies, so often they have big labs, and so they are on the side of testing facilities, in fact, but some of them are open to share these testing facilities to other companies in their neighborhood, SMEs or others, and from that, let's say, point of view, it's very important that they are in touch with Germain, and Germain will come to our meeting of that group early in December to explain what is offered by the Metabuilding Association. And then I move to flat products. Flat products is different in the sense that I said implementation regulation is not as advanced, but it's coming too. And in that group, let's say the distance to the final market is usually bigger than what we have on the side of building systems. Anyway, we are also working on some, let's say, projects, and the member companies, flat products, usually don't have big test centers like we have for building systems. So we usually look for cooperation to test things outside. So since we have a few members dealing with flat products present today, maybe I just tell you who they are, because we have 3 companies represented by 4 people today. So we have, I see Sasha, who is from Novelis, a company making with rolling of aluminium and also coating of aluminium. We have Dirk Verwimp, just behind Sasha there, who is working for Almeco, which is a continuous anodizing company on aluminum sheets. And we have two representatives, George Michalatos and George Manos, from Elval Color, who is making, who has in the part a big Greek group, having, among others, rolling activities, and they have coating activities and composite panel production. If I forget something, tell me later. And altogether with these companies, we had, in fact, some years ago, the project to test something. The flat products with aluminium are often used in the so-called ventilated facade system. So similarly to what Coveris presented earlier today, it is not based on transparent elements, rather opaque elements, but the issue is very comparable in the sense that you have a poor description of the ventilated cladding dynamic, I would say, in standard and regulation. So it's not because you simply add U values of various layers on the building that you know what is the thermal performance. The air gap, the circulation, this is something dynamic that you need to model. And therefore, but it's already a long time ago, we were looking for testing sites around Europe. So we asked our members, we had discussion with one member company and asked them, try to convince to have a facade element being tested along their rolling mill. But it's very difficult if you operate a rolling mill that you will also deal with an experimental test of a new product. It's not the same business. So in the end, we were a part of the E2VEN project together with NOBATEK, Valcolor and so on. And then we discovered what is very similar to today's O3 beds in Anglet and said, oh, even nicer, they have 3 test cells. So we can, on top of the reference ETIC, on top of the EU project chamber that we'll use, there is a third one available where we can test how does standard ventilated facade function. And so we looked for it, and finally we were happy to find it there. So then, how will the future look like? So in the past, we said we only found one. And if we would be, let's say today, with the same issue, I mean, the situation would be much better because we have now a single entry point that gives access to several O3 beds across Europe. It means possible choices for various climates. Why not even testing the same thing in various climates to see the difference? Since on top they are integrated, it's very good to compare the data. Last but not least, we have this digital twinning now that would become possible, so that I mean the whole assessment of the product would have been much easier. So now I think that was the last slide. Now I just hope that what the new ecosystem becomes will be used, but not only by our members, but by anybody who is facing this issue that the standards are not enough, that they want to make the standards evolve based on sound and robust data. So I think now there is a supporting infrastructure for that. I just hope I was not too long, so thank you.
Yeah, super clear. Thank you. And we also missed the opportunity to tell you about our testing facilities. I think we have over 100 testing facilities. So today we're going to focus on one of them because it's a new one. It's really interesting. A European project that created a new testing infrastructure in Europe, the O3 bet. And I think we have 5 plus 2. And it's something that we have all the specifications that if someone somewhere else wanted to do one tomorrow through regional funding, we can make that fast and it's available. So that's interesting. But I go back to what we're not telling you about. It's also sort of a booking.com for the top testing facilities and infrastructure in Europe, which have joined this ecosystem. So that's really powerful. So perhaps I wish we had slides here that showed pictures of those 100 testing facilities that give you the feeling of really what's behind this. And a couple times today, we keep using the word project. it's true, Metabuilding Labs is a project, but now Metabuilding is an association, a legal entity with a general director whose full-time job is to do that, and it's not going away. So at one point, this event today was called a final event, but it's not a final event, it's a kickoff. It's a kickoff of an ecosystem that has a 5-year vision to do all these things. And today, I was really interested in the companies that got mentioned, because later on you'll hear about our affiliate membership program where we want you to join. Individual companies to have direct access so we can be faster with our members, because now the association also has to grow. But now let me go back to what we're going to tell you about, is we just heard about this opportunity from the association to influence standards through a test bench that was new. And in this European project, Metabuilding Labs, we upgraded the concept of the O3 bet. The person who had the vision for that is here behind me, and he's going to tell you about that. So Antoine, I'm interested in, in how does it work? A case study, and how does it become replicable for SMEs in lots of places? Because if there's just one in one place, it's different than many in many places.
Thanks a lot for this introduction by Bernard and by Tom. So for sure, I will try to, the very introduction by Bernard was perfect in the sense that that's the very initial consideration that we had by, let's say, designing these O3 bets. Another example, so Bernard presented one with ventilated cladding. Another one would be such a company, rather smaller than El Valcolor, which is this French company, Urban Canopy. They do a system which allows to do some renovation by integrating a structure for climbing plants, so as a green wall, okay? So obviously lots of challenges regarding the manufacturing, how to integrate the green aspects, so-called nature-based solutions. How do you manage the watering, the potential even water collection, which was also quickly presented by Carmine earlier. So when discussing with them, the initial discussion, the points that are raised are, okay, we present quickly the system. It's made for renovation, it's not finalized, we're still in the process of developing it, which is a bit different from what Bernard said. You can be facing, let's say, open points regarding regulations, but here it's like in development, in progress, at TRL 4 or 5. It's assumed that it impacts comfort, cooling loads, even potentially like external comfort, let's say. And most often it is poorly described, poorly modeled, mainly in, let's say, thermal considerations. And there are not standards, no, let's say, classical way to describe that. So the question in relation to the market for them, because that's the driver, they want to make a good product. So what's the impact that will have this system, this product, on a building? And what kind of building? Should I focus on residential or office buildings and so on? On what kind of walls should it be installed? And then, okay, once I have this product developed, how can I valorize it? How can I integrate that into modules, into buildings regulation, so that it favor its integration? So that's an example of such initial discussions that lead to the consideration of these O3 bets. So I'll be quick because this has been presented. It's rather simple. That's a box. That's a box with one open facade. We install this very system, the ventilated cladding, the green wall, we install it. By having designed it carefully, let's just say that it is high quality regarding air tightness, high quality regarding monitoring capacities. And yeah, the way we designed it also is, let's say, open source. So there is a BIM model, there are lots of documentation that are available for anyone who would be at least interested in having a look, or as Tom said, even potentially replicate it and having another one. So how does it work? So this initial analysis that I just presented with discussion and questionnaires, depending on the requirements, expectation, we define an experimental protocol. So what do we install? We design it. That's on the manufacturer to manufacture it, to supervise the installation. We check the correct processes. Then there is an energy model that can be either rather classical or innovative, depending on what we integrate. And we have to select already what are the targeted building types. And then we install it, and we run the monitoring campaign. And it's few weeks, few months. It doesn't have to be a full year. And then we can exploit the data, and we can have as a service, okay? This service is also enabled, it made more, let's say, powerful in a very scientific and technical way, but also in a commercial way, because we can allow those feedbacks on installation, implementation, this is what we can assess. And what I was going with is one on the bottom left is the digital tools that are integrated. So we have a digital twin that allows a better, let's say, management of the monitoring campaign. I'll be back on that. And so then that's the validity question, and that has been stressed out, and that's a very common questions or topic that is highlighted is, okay, but if I were in Brussels, that's why I chose to put these blue dots there, or it could be like in Valladolid in Spain where we have one, it could be in Galway, there's Paul over there, there's Michel in Poland that's going to have one, Evalota in Sweden, us in Bordeaux, Carmine in let's say South Italy. So, okay, if I were to test it there, and for this rather short duration, in a given orientation, in those situations, how can I exploit that considering the full European market? And so what we use is the design that we have made, the test, the models, allows us to validate the model. This very model, then we integrate it into the, let's say, just say energy modeling capacities at building scale. And by having it prepared, we have defined building archetypes. Building archetypes are representation of buildings per typologies. So it's representation of the existing stock of 70s residential housing in the Mediterranean part of Europe. It's industrial buildings, it's office buildings. That's what we define. And then the end product, and that maybe the most important part, is this tool that would be in the end or as a tool for the clients to be able to play with those parameters. I'm selecting buildings, I'm selecting the KPIs I'm interested into, I'm selecting few parameters. So the width, the quantity, let's say, of the installation, the type of the plant, or the anchoring system we're discussing with Guido, stuff like that. And the idea would be to directly assess the impact. So it allows you to even investigate rather market-wise where it would fit best. And that's what we call these semi-virtual test bench or semi-physical dual, because there is this physical and virtual parts. And so, yeah, more or less, where we are now, we have this Osribet, which is the front runner in Valladolid Cartif, which is, let's say, 100% finished, now being tested, calibrating, and all. We have, that's a few pictures, but there are more. That's in France, in Poland, in Italy, and soon to be also in Galway, in Ireland. And so, yeah, we have this network. This network offers first commercial capacities. We put together this effort. We put together the capacity to answer to it. And with, let's say, Germain as the representative and general director of Metabuilding at the front commercial phase of proposing those tests. The idea is also to cooperate. The idea is to say, yeah, to Bernard and his members, what do you think it's best to install it? And yeah, and just to conclude with that, and then Germain will open up on, this is part of the catalog of the so-called testing capacities that we have. So Germain will detail a bit more, and what I can say, and what we'll discuss afterwards, and especially with, again, to connect with Bernard and the European Aluminium members, is we are at the stage where we have finalized or almost all three bets. So we can and we offer the possibility to have manufacturers, group of industrials, to design together, to manufacture, ship, and install such solutions, can be whatever, and within the capacity of this ongoing project, in this case we are still capacity, we can test and provide feedbacks.
Thank you very much. Yes. So this part of my intervention, I come back to the ecosystem we are setting up. So I switch from the technical aspects that you have just seen and I have explained in my first intervention to the ecosystem, and then another thing which is very, very often neglected. So the Commission set up 3 projects to really set up these networks of testing facilities, this service. The problem is very often this, you create a website, you publish a little bit your service software, etc., and then you wait for your clients to come. So for these SMEs that constitute the biggest part, the biggest chunk of the construction industry, will very probably not come to you like this. So in Metabuilding Labs, we have another approach. We have a proactive approach. So this, which also Alain tried to explain, we are going exactly where the SMEs are located. And these SMEs are located in their regions, they speak the local language, and they have, very often, they are affiliated to regional clusters. So this is why Metabuilding Labs, or the Metabuilding thing, is called Metabuilding because of meta-clustering. So the idea of clusters has been central in this approach. So that's why clusters for us are very important, because they are the very first element in our commercial value chain. The clients are our potential clients, and indeed the target public for our services are SMEs, and they are located in clusters. So that's why we work together with the Built4People Innovation Cluster Network, because this is the way we can be more useful to the full construction industry. So this is what I have already explained. So this is our technical offer. This is the extended ecosystem. So we have already developed this. And now the point is how we unfold this strategy of how we approach our SME or other clients in a real situation, commercial situation. So we have our support ecosystem is not really constituted just of testing facilities. So the testing facilities are run by people for the moment. Perhaps one day they will be fully automatized, but for the moment we need technicians, we need experts, we need engineers that run these facilities, that support, they eventually coach an innovator that needs assistance towards the full pathway from idea to market with any innovation. So our support system is two-tiered, and so our two profile, let's say, is the innovation assistant and the innovation coach. And these are different. So as I explained before, the innovation assistants are typically staff from the regional innovation clusters that are already working with SMEs, that speak their language. They are the trust person where these SMEs in need of support will go and ask what they can do, etc. So this innovation assistance should really make the link between the needs of the clients and our set of services. And then the innovation coach, which is an expert profile. These are high-level expert engineers that usually works in a research and technology organization, in a university. So they provide in-depth knowledge about their field, the specific sector. And so, but the innovation assistant so curates the demands and channel the demand to the adequate experts, which are the innovation coaches. So the innovation assistant profile is, as I said before, is an on-ramping agent. So it's the enabler, the one that comes, so welcomes the client to our ecosystem, interprets their needs, and make a first very quick assessment of the needs, navigates through our backend platform, because the Metabuilding Labs works with a digital platform, so they can find which is the right person, the right expert that can help solve the problem, or which is the real test, or the service, or the certification that the innovator needs. So they are not scientists, but they are people from the field. So they must know the construction sector very well and be, if possible, part of them. The innovation coach, as I explained before, is different. So very specialized people, very technically sound and trained people that will provide the expert services, the design of the experiment, the execution, the monitoring, the validation, analyze the data, and at the end of the day provide a long-term development support. This is why we call them coaching. It is a long way. And here, I think this is my last slide. So the network of Built4People Innovation Clusters, and then you see our coverage, our current coverage of Europe. So you will see that some countries are covered by one and not by the other. And this is a clear pathway for us for growth. We ideally, as I said before, we want to cover all of Europe, and the growing of the Built4People Innovation Cluster Network will help us figure out and finding the right expert partner, future partner, and future member, I hope, to extend our ecosystem to other countries. So we are working very hard on this. We are also including this in new proposals or new projects. The idea will also be to proactively go and extend to new countries helped by European research. Thank you very much.
Antoine led the way. So thanks again to this panel and the panel members. And we're changing gears so we can step down off the stage. And Antoine already left. And we can thank again once this panel session. So let's close that one up. And as you might have seen, we're moving into conclusions.